Hey guys, welcome back to Colton Critters. I'm Colton Smith. It has been a minute since I have posted. I'm sorry guys. I just really haven't had much motivation and it's summer, so I'm kind of lazy. But I'm going to try to get back into the grind of making tons of videos, probably twice a week now, but we'll see what happens. Just bear with me. Today's video we're going to be setting up my Crested Gecko cage and just setting it up. I turned it into a live vivarium tank. I used spray foam and all that, so yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so I went ahead here and I just worked the cork bark and all the pieces of wood that I had on the background, making sure I put it exactly where I wanted. So when I applied the spray foam, I didn't have to like create it just then and there because the spray foam would dry and then the whole thing would be ruined. So I wanted to make sure to get my wood in place exactly where I want it. So that way when I apply the spray foam, I just put it down on the spray foam immediately and then let it cure. I tried to put this pot back in the corner over there so that way I could have a plant kind of like hanging out of it. I just kind of like played around with it and got what I want. I found this really cool piece of wood in my backyard and I made sure to clean it. And then I decided to cut it up and incorporate that into the background as well. In the end, I think it turned out really cool. And it's actually one of my favorite tanks that I have in my room, if not my favorite. And I just think it turned out really well. So let's get on to the spray foam. Alright, I got everything how I like it, and I'm just gonna wipe it down again. Get all this dirt out of the way so that I can spray foam it. Now we're gonna apply the spray foam and then quickly move our stuff into the places where we like it. It says shake well, so make sure you shake it up before using it. And then I'm gonna have about like 4 inches of where there would just be substrate and our hydro balls at the bottom, so I'm not going to spray at that point. I'm going to spray like right here. Alright, make sure you guys clean the bottom very well so that way it can stick and apply to the glass. But just make sure that you don't do too thick of a layer of spray foam, because the spray foam does cure, or when it does cure, it expands up to like probably twice the size. So it will puff everything out, but then you can go back and recut it. So if you do put too much, it's not the end of the world, but just remember that it does do that. Alright, so this is where I go back with a razor blade and a pocket knife, and I go and just cut all the spray foam, making it look a little bit more textured like rock. And also what I'm going to be painting over it won't really stick to the smooth texture of spray foam. So you got to go back and you got to cut it. Make sure you get that porous texture that you can see, and it kind of makes it look more of like a lava rock texture once I go back and paint it, which I think looks really nice. And I kind of just carve it, make sure I like it, and make it look more like rock and not like spray foam. So yeah, in the end, this is what it turned out like. I really like what it looked like. Then I gotta just go back and repaint everything, and this is where I'm painting it. I used Quikrete cement coloring, which later I'll show you why that didn't work. But yeah, the painting job looked really nice and I was really happy with it. Alright, so then I went and I painted it first with the black Quikrete cement coloring that I had, and then after that I went and added brown very lightly just to get the highlights and the textures and make it look a little bit more like rock. And I also used a so I used the white and added that in a little bit to make it a little lighter, and I went over it again after that. Alright guys, we went ahead and we painted it with a few more layers of paint, and I touched it up with some of the red paint, as you can see in those light brown areas. So I think it turned out really nice. Shout out to my sister for letting me use her paint brushes. But now we're going to clean out the bottom. I'm just going to give the whole cage a mist down after the paint dries, and then we're going to be planting a plant in here. I'm thinking about putting a pothos plant in there, and then we got to put the substrate at the bottom with our hydro balls. Alright, so here's how it turned out. I thought it turned out really nice, and I was actually really happy with it, and I liked it a lot. But they didn't have dry lock at Home Depot when I ended up getting the paint, and so you have to mix it with dry lock so that way it's waterproof. And I didn't do that because it didn't have dry lock. And so I thought it would work anyway, but it doesn't, sadly. It just washes off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take Flex Seal, white Flex Seal, and I'm gonna mix it with the paint, and then I'm gonna go and completely redo the paint job, which kind of sucks, but gotta do what I gotta do, so that way the paint doesn't just wash off when I spray down the cage. I'm not gonna show the painting process just because I already did the first time. So yeah, I'm just gonna save you the boredom and skip till I'm done. See you guys then. Alright guys, here is the end result. I think it turned out really nice. I liked the original look better before I had to redo it, but I still do really like this. It makes it look really natural instead of using the silicone with cocoa fibers. I just think the paint looks a lot better. I did test to see if this one actually didn't come off with water, and it did not in fact come off with water, so we're good to go. Now we just gotta add the hydro balls at the bottom, then our screen and substrate, and then add plants and other hardscapes, and then we're done. Alright, now I'm mixing the substrate that I'm going to be using for the enclosure. I started out with some eco earth, and I added some sand, some bark, and some orchid bark, and some sphagnum moss, and went ahead and just added a bunch of water to this, and then I went and stirred it all together. It made a really nice ABG mix, I guess, and yeah, it's growing plants really well. Right now the plants are thriving, and I'll show you guys a later result. Alright, we're going to go ahead and add our hydro balls to the bottom first. I just went ahead and added all the hydro balls I had. These were small ones, but they filled up the bottom very nicely. This will give a drainage layer for your plants so that they can root in. And yeah, then I went and added the mesh, which is going to be the barrier between our hydro balls and substrate, so the substrate doesn't leak into the hydro ball area, and it just keeps it separated. I got this window screen from a fish tank lid that I made, so you could just buy this at like Home Depot. But yeah, and then after that we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add our substrate as I previously mixed, which you guys saw. I wanted a thick layer of substrate, so I added a lot of it to it, basically brought it up to the level where I stopped the spray foam. I wanted it thick so that way I could plant our roots, or plant our plants in there, and they could root in nicely. Yeah, and you want to go, what I like to do is make it taller in the back of substrate wise, so that way you get more feel like coming into the tank. This is where I just kind of like played around with the other wood pieces I had until I liked it. I did end up using that piece. That piece right now is one of my Crested Gecko's favorite places to sleep in and hide, and she definitely loves it. So yeah, this is just me adding a bunch of wood and just playing around with it until I liked it. So I added a bunch of ferns, and I used different plants like ferns, moss, mainly just ferns. I used a lot of ferns. I found this really cool fern in my backyard. I think it's called a rabbit's foot fern, and it was in one of my Crested Gecko cages before, and I put it outside because it was dying. As you can see, it's right there, and it's like rooting down, and it looks really nice. And right now it's been like a month since I filmed this, and it's growing really, really nicely. And now I'm using these other purple plants that I found. I don't know the names of them because I'm not a plant expert, but they have like purple leaves, and they looked really nice, and they're doing really well as well. All the plants in this tank are doing really, really well. I think that big fern in the corner, I ended up taking out and replacing it with a pothos plant that I put in the back there, which is also thriving now. But yeah, I basically just added a bunch of plants, trying to make it look as nice as possible, and played around with it. Now I'm going to go ahead and just mist down the whole tank, make sure all the plants are nice and wet, and yeah, just get it nice and humid in there for our new Crested Gecko. We're going to add her in the next clip. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, smash the like button. Also, comment down below your favorite part of the video. And yeah, till next time, peace.